Good morning, Morgan. You're not going to like what I have to say next.
Prey 2017 Review and Impressions. This video will contain spoilers, so if you finish the game or you just don't care about spoilers, welcome. So, after just having finished this game, I thought it would be a good time to share my thoughts and feelings. This game was a survival action RPG set on a space station called Talos 1. It's set in an alternate Earth history where President Kennedy wasn't assassinated, but instead developed the space program. Your character Morgan New wakes up with amnesia and has to explore the station to try and find some answers. The crew has disappeared and the space station has been taken over by an enemy species known as the Typhon. So this game was a surprise for me, as I was expecting the usual 6 to 8 hour campaign that you'd find with a typical first person shooter. I had played the original Prey way back in 2006. There are some similarities between the two games. Both deal with an alien invasion and also feature some innovative game mechanics. The original Prey was one of the first games to feature portals. There was moving around in zero-G and some perspective changes to confuse you. Prey 2017 featured the use of a versatile weapon called the glue gun. This weapon can put out fires and electrical problems, fix hull breaches, and create platforms that help you reach inaccessible areas, as well as incapacitating or slowing down the enemy. Also of note is the use of morphing, both available to the player and suitably named Mimic Typhons. It's great fun using this power to hide or enter difficult areas, as well as trying to guess where the mimics are hiding. Anyway, after the first game there was a long wait until a trailer popped up at E3 in 2012. This trailer showed us a potentially new direction for the series, where you played as an alien bounty hunter. This looked really promising, as you can imagine the many different aliens you could either kill or capture. I'm guessing that there would have been different bounty missions on different worlds. This could have been a DLC maker's dream. And can you imagine the variety of different weapons and devices at your disposal? So when at last the new Prey came out, I was expecting it to possibly be a mixture of the original and hopefully had some elements from the bounty hunter idea. I felt confident that an excellent shooter was coming my way, especially after the Doom reboot from the same publisher. To my surprise, after I played a few hours, the coin dropped. I realised that this had more in common with System Shock and BioShock. The first System Shock was also set on a space station. It also featured many audio logs from the missing crew and even their ghosts. BioShock grew out of this and also had looting and plasmid upgrades similar to the Typhon abilities. I do, however, prefer the combat in this game to Prey, especially the big daddies you encountered. I feel that BioShock did a better job of mixing the combat with the RPG elements. Were they trying to fill the gap in the market now that Looking Glass Studios are no more? If you haven't played System Shock, there's going to be an excellent remake coming out very soon, and the BioShock games have all been remastered. Luckily, I'm already a big fan of these games, however I can imagine that this may not have been popular with everyone. So this deep RPG awaited me. I had just started my gaming channel and wanted to try out recording a first-person shooter. I had no idea that this would be a long, rewarding, but sometimes frustrating journey. I must admit to feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of choice and the sheer amount of reading. Who reads this much in a shooter? Now, I didn't jump straight into playing, as I had read that on release there was a save game bug. Many people were very upset that they'd lost their progress and didn't want to replay all those long lost hours. RPG games really need a very stable save system, so this deal breaker must have hurt the early release. So I waited for the patches to come out, and can say that during my entire playthrough I didn't have any issues with saves. So what did I like about this game, and what didn't I? Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, as these are just my own personal opinions. Let's start positive with what I liked. Firstly, the look of Talos 1. I really liked the art style, the paintings, sculptures and furniture. I'm a big fan of all things Art Deco. Along with the character design, it reminded me of a mix of Dishonored and BioShock. I felt like I had returned to Rapture, but this time in space. This game suited my taste, but I can understand some people not liking it. Audio design for me was also spot on and really created atmosphere and immersion. The tannoy system coming on at various times made me feel that this was once a thriving station, but now eerily empty, and with all the explosions and rumbles, that this place just wasn't safe. I also really loved the musical interludes. Occasionally you'd hear some atmospheric guitar work, and at one point even a really creepy old piano. Loving it. Look at this. Knocks them back as well. So good. However, even though the game is creepy at times, I didn't feel the same level of fear that I've felt in a game such as Dead Space. And once your character gets overpowered, all the Typhons don't stand a chance. This is possibly an effect of me picking a level of difficulty that was too easy. I think I played on normal and guess Nightmare must make the game much better. I chose not to go hard as this was my first shooter series and I didn't want to get stuck. And now onto the level design. Level design is varied and interesting. There are opportunities to put out fires and repair broken electrical outlets or use your advantage against enemies. Some levels or sections, like the guts, are set entirely in 0G. I struggled to control my character and felt really disorientated on those. Here I realised that I would not enjoy the experience of being an astronaut. You can also even venture outside the station and open bulkheads to get around faster. So early on in the game you're exploring each section of the station and opening things up for backtracking later on. I didn't mind this connected approach, however for me it did create too much loading. Of course this will be reduced in the future with a faster machine, but I guess I'll still find it immersion breaking and would prefer it if there was a longer load at the start of the game. I guess due to the complexity of Talos 1, this is going to be hard to achieve. Backtracking was incorporated into many side quests. In this game I didn't mind going back because there were areas that I couldn't access as I didn't have the necessary lifting strength, for example. I also liked the main quest and most of the side quests, and I only found one bugged quest, which is very impressive for a Bethesda game. I also felt frustrated trying to find the various dead bodies that were craftily tucked away. Anyway, back to the main story. I love how it drove you forward and intrigued. The many plot twists and surprises led me to some very wow moments. So as you make progress, you learn about your character along the way, and this really reminded me of the film Total Recall. As you explore the station, you're also trying to find your brother. Along the way, you have to make moral choices and decide whether to side with him or take the advice of January, your robot helper. Other crew members like Dr. Igwe will also give you advice. Here the character's amnesia works really well, and is plausible because of the after effects of inserting and then removing neuromods. I won't spoil the ending, but I will say that I was only a little surprised, as I had the feeling of being a guinea pig throughout most of the game. The many side quests on completion reward you with neuromods, weapon upgrade kits, and other rewarding loot. I also liked the crafting system and enjoyed using the recyclers to turn the junk I collected from around the station into various materials. This, along with fabrication plans and the machine, allowed you to make useful items, and you can even make neuromods that you spend on your skill trees. So with your character development, you can decide to stay all human and stick with the engineer, scientist or security expert skills, or you can venture into using some Typhon abilities from the energy, morph or telepathy trees. I decided to pick and mix my favourites and only dipped into the Typhon skills, mainly out of curiosity and to access certain areas. I did find some of these to be overpowered. If you watch my playthrough, you'll notice that I did spam the decoy a lot. It seemed weird to me that the Typhon just couldn't figure out what was going on. I think a power of invisibility would have been much better. There are also stealth options, but being impatient, I am not a great stealth player. I also didn't like the ability where you can stop or slow time. I guess this is all balance, and is probably okay if you go for the harder difficulties. The other way you can upgrade your character is by finding suit or scope chipsets. Needless to say, the combination of all of these make you formidable by the end of the game. If only there was a worthy boss to vent all this power on. Hold on, I'm still on the positive section. Okay, what else can I tell you? Yeah, the combat. While not being a fan of the combat in this game, I did appreciate the strategies you can come up with by combining weapons and grenades. There may be many combinations that I didn't think of. I did enjoy knocking out enemy bots with a null wave grenade and then following up while they were on the floor with a recycler charge. I also used the lure to attract an enemy into a hazard. As you can see, there's so much in this game to comment on, and the length of the campaign made it great value. Lastly, on the plus side, I like the jetpack, but mostly indoors, and the little flying bots or operators were great fun, especially the medical operator. And now, what didn't I like, or what I feel could be improved by modding? Feel free to disagree in the comments, or let me know how your playthrough went. The first thing isn't something wrong with the game, it's just something I didn't care for, and those are the zero-G sections, especially during the guts. This is possibly down to my poor piloting skills. I was constantly crashing and drifting all over the place while being battered by typhons and radiation, which made it more of an ordeal than a fun time. I felt like a frog in a blender. Please someone make a Gravity Boots mod for me. Next up is the shotgun. And this is especially bad when you've upgraded it all the way. It really is still just a melee weapon, and you have to get really close for it to be effective. I think this needs to be modded. Another weapon I didn't care for was the stun gun. Now, this may be good if you upgrade it, but holding that charge while trying to move around, I didn't like it. Another weapon that I hardly used was that Nerf gun, the Huntress Boltcaster. I think I used it once in the game to open a door. I did try to use it to distract Typhon, but I didn't find it worked out for me. However, it might be good for a stealth player. If anyone's out there that had better luck, let me know so I can watch their video. So all in all, I would like to have had some better weapons. And yes, I really tried hard with the turrets. But even if I fortified them, they would blow away like leaves in the wind when a typhon attacked. Also frustrating was that they can't go around 360 degrees. I tried and used them in many situations, but they never failed to disappoint. Now on to the combat and the enemy typhon. For me, the combat is the biggest letdown. If this game had the combat of the new Doom along with these features, it would have been amazing. For me though, it just really didn't feel enjoyable enough, especially for a long game where you will have to repeat the same battles over and over. You really need to enjoy and love killing these things. Maybe it was the way the things moved, or because they all look very similar. I don't know what it was, but it was good to average and not great for me. And as for the nightmare creature that kept coming back again and again, that got old really fast. So if you don't know, Nightmare is a big boss that turns up occasionally to hunt you down. If you want to avoid him, you just stay in a room that he can't get into. The first time you see him, you are worried by the size of him, and you think, wow, this is a boss fight, here we go. But when you've killed it a few times, it's just a formality. All you do is you just harvest some exotic material from him. Another big disappointment is after spending so much time building your character and saving up ammo for a final encounter, the boss action is poor to non-existent. Don't want to spoil the game for you, but there really wasn't that much of a challenge. I had imagined that Alex, my brother, would be using his Typhon powers and be like a final boss. You know, he could morph or hide, and use the various powers. You get the idea. Also at the end, they send in the Marines to take the station back, but instead of fighting human enemies, you just get tons of military bots that look like little toasters that fire lasers, and their boss style wasn't a great challenge either. Maybe they should have had some more zombie action with the crew, okay? It just needed something more. I guess because of the vast ambition of this game and all the features they put in, that they really didn't get around to tuning it. I think maybe a few less audio logs and emails and more attention on boss fights and combat would have improved this game. Conclusion. Okay, despite all its flaws, overall I loved the experience that I had with this game. I really felt like I'd spent some time on the station and felt immersed and invested in this world. I also think because I did a let's play of it, I really got into it. Before I had a channel and used to play games by myself, I will go through them as fast as possible. And reading logs, etc., just forget about it. Especially with a shooter, you know, they're usually very linear, and even with a story, they'll basically kill everything in the level, find a key to the next level, until you kill the end boss and finish. Prey, however, is actually a game I didn't mind backtracking on. It really felt like a whole thing rather than just a collection of levels. So like most Bethesda game, I think it's crying out for mods. Good to great games can be turned into something awesome this way. I have found a few mods out there, but nowhere on the scale of, say, Skyrim or Fallout. So I'm going to wait and see, and if in the distant future there are some really cool mods, I will look forward to once more returning to Talos 1. If anyone can tell me how popular this game was, or how well it did, or if it's hard to mod, I would love to read any information you can give me in the comments. So if I had to score it, I think I'd be looking at a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. Being too diverse and ambitious with so many features, but not putting in place what an RPG shooter needs. Some good shooting along with the RPG. Saying that, however, I still recommend playing this game. It's an experience well worth having.